Okay, hi guys, welcome to this week's Terrier Talk, the little podcast where we talk about terriers and making our lives better with them, particularly when we are talking about pet terriers. So this week I'm answering a question from a really nice follower who asked about a good way to deal with having two dogs that are different in their requirements. Now, I think this is a super common issue that a lot of us terrier folk have, because we quite often have more than one. Gluttons for punishment, we get one and then we have to get another one. And it can be that they can be quite different and that we can have quite different requirements for those two dogs, especially if you have an older established dog that you've kind of got into a routine with and you are, you're settled and you're meeting their needs and everything's great. And then you bring in a younger dog that then starts to put higher demands on your time. And this is the sort of the situation that we've got here for this follower. And so she has an older, fairly steady dog who is non-reactive, is pretty happy, who likes to totter along on their walks and sniff and do all those things. The kind of terrier that we would all, love to have. It's a nice and easy character. And then she's got a younger 1-year-old male dog who is absolutely full of beans and is frustration reactive. Okay, so when you're taking these two dogs out on a walk together, you've now got a conflict because you've got one that wants to be off doing things at 100 miles an hour, and you've got one that wants to be steadily and plodding along or whatever. Now, there's the kind of the dog training manual answer to this. And the dog training manual would say that you should treat these dogs completely separately, okay? That you should be looking at meeting their needs and walking them on separate occasions so that you are doing the best training that you can for them. Now, that is what you should be doing, technically. However, there's that, and then there's real life. And we don't always have time to do that. We don't have time to do two separate walks. If you've got an hour in the morning to walk your dogs, you don't have 2 hours magically because you've then got two dogs. And that can be really hard. And then you're almost in the situation then where you're not meeting the other dog's needs either, so they could regress. Now, separating them as much as possible is the best suggestion, right? And it's the first thing I would say. As much as you possibly can, you do want to separate those walks out, okay, so that you can do the best as you can for both dogs. Now, you're in a good situation in the sense that your first older dog is the chilled and calm one, and your new dog is the more excitable one, because what you don't want to do is have the opposite situation, and this unfortunately I think is pretty common as well, is that you bring a newer dog into a situation where you have an already reactive dog, and then that newer dog then picks up the habits of the older dog. Now, thankfully for this lady, it doesn't seem that that's going to happen, because if the older dog is already very settled and chilled, the chances of them picking up the habits of the very excitable young adolescent is significantly less. So walking them together is less of a risk. If you have the opposite situation and you have brought a new dog into a household with a dog that is already reactive, you really must do your best not to take them out until that new dog is trained and you are happy, because those habits will go the other way, and that's obviously not ideal, because then you think you're going to make the situation better. A lot of people do when they get two dogs. I'll get another dog, and then the first one will have some company and they'll feel better about other dogs and the reactivity will go away. That is unlikely. It's more likely to go the other way, and that your new dog will also become reactive. So if you're the way round that this follower is, then you're okay. If you're the other way round, you really must make more of an effort to walk them separately. Right then, so suggestions for real life, right? Like, how are we going to do our best with the time that we've got for these two dogs who have at the moment got very different needs, both in terms of how they want to behave out on a walk, which is their time as much as possible, and also in terms of what effort and time you need to put into them. So here we go. The first thing I think you need to do is remember that equal isn't necessarily fair. So just because you are like, okay, I've got these two dogs and I want to give them both equal amounts of my time, not necessarily the fair thing to do. It might be that if your older dog is steady, chilled, calm and relaxed, you can give that dog less of your time for a while, and you can concentrate on your newer dog. Okay, so that's the first bit. Drop the guilt. As long as the older dog is happy, you can put more time into the newer one. Right, and some ways to get around. I say get around's not really the right way to describe it, but some ways to navigate this 2-dog problem. Right. I would look at putting some extra play and training in for the younger dog that is based around, either being very close to home or at home, in order to give them some more fulfillment that is very easy to do. So I'm talking about things like you would do a 10 to 15 minute play session first thing in the morning, as it may be, or like when you've got a gap in your kind of breakfast routine with that dog, to knock a bit of energy out of them. Okay, some of that that frustrated, like it's first thing in the morning and I just want to go and run around and bark at stuff, and you knock a bit of that out before you go out on your walk. The important thing is to let them calm down again after that play session before you go out. So it would look something along the lines of, you would do your 15-20 minute play session, you would then give the dog half an hour to chill out, and then you would go out on your walk. Okay, so you can do that with your young dog and not your older dog. And then when you get out on your walk, hopefully your young dog will be a little bit steadier. Okay, so the paces of them will be matched a little bit. So you're not taking that young dog out, or your problem dog, if you like. You're not taking the problem dog out full of beans. Okay, so you can find an extra 10 minutes in your morning routine. That's a lot easier than completely separating their walks. And that goes for that dog's day as a whole. So I would look to put more of that kind of thing into their day. You don't necessarily have to do those training sessions and those, like, what I would call slightly more challenging mental fulfillment and maybe meeting of needs, like Terrier type needs, with both dogs. Okay, if one's pretty chilled, you can just do that with your more difficult dog, and then you will find the walks when you take them out together, because that's the time that you've got to actually get them out and do their toilets and their sniffing and their dog time, is a bit more balanced, because that younger dog is getting some of that energy and some of those needs met before they actually get out on their walk in the first place. My second suggestion for you would be, is the older dog okay off the lead? Hopefully they are. In which case, could you go, rather than going on like a circuit walk or a loop or whatever, which is what we tend to do, we drive either from our doors or we go to a car park and we stop and then we do our loop and then we get back in the car. Could you go somewhere where you have slightly more open space, like local park, playing fields, something along those lines? Are you able to trust that older dog off the lead to go and potter around a little bit, while you focus on training and stimulation for that younger dog? Okay, so rather than just being like Stretch Armstrong and having your younger dog pulling you forward and your older dog holding you back on a circuit walk, can you go, okay, older dog, you're nice chill, and what you want to do is go and potter about the place. So let's go to this, field. You might not see like a hired enclosed field maybe, but if you don't, that's expensive and also not necessarily easy to achieve every single day. So even if you can find a space where the older dog is relatively safe, kind of local parks and playing fields are your ideal kind of place for this sort of thing. And that dog can potter around, and you can keep half an eye on that dog. You just keep checking in with them. Are they okay? Might recall them over for a treat or something. Let them potter around, do their pottering and sniffing and being happy, while you put effort into training and mentally stimulating that young dog, whether that's through scent work or play or like kind of directed training activities for whatever it is you're trying to achieve with them. Then you can take that hour's time or that allotted amount of time that you have for them and make better use of it while still having two dogs around. So that's a suggestion if your older dog is steady and all right to be off the lead, or even could you leave them just on a dragging long line or something, so that if you needed to, you could get hold of them. But obviously that requires a level of you being aware of what both dogs are doing and having a level of trust in that older dog. But that's another potential option for you. Right, and then and when you're actually on the, I suggest, when you're actually on your walk, which is the type of lead that you're using now. If I had this situation, I would potentially put the older dog in the first point on a flexi lead, so that I could keep the younger dog close in, but I had more opportunity for that older dog to stop and sniff as they went along, than having the two of them on a short lead and having the conflict all the time. Okay, so I've got my younger dog closer into me, and I've got my older dog on a flexi, so that they can stop, chill out, sniff, do their own thing a little bit, or even on a long line, depending on how it works for you, whatever works better. It's just that when you've got two dogs, a flexi can be easier because you get a lot less tangle situation, and then you've got less of a conflict. If the younger dog can do it and you're away from triggers, you can put them both on flexes. It just depends on the situation. So my two, the boy Elvis the Blue and Tan that you'll see, he's very much full on. He's like, let's go, go, go. And Beatty, his younger sister, is much more chill, and she's like, oh, I'll just potter around. And when she sniffs a thing, she wants to spend a bit of time sniffing it, whereas Elvis is like, sniffed it, move on. So if I go somewhere with them when I've got to keep them both on the lead for whatever reason, then I would put them both on flexi leads, and then I can have, like one Elvis can be kind of 5 meters out in front, Beatty can be 5 meters behind, and the paces match out better because she will catch up and he will slow down, and it's less of a fight than having them on short leads. But you need to have trust in the dog's ability to be on those leads also, so that's to be thought about. And again, the other situation is, can you have your older dog off the lead? So if I was somewhere in a sticky situation, not the right word, but like, let's say a park somewhere, and I was a bit like, I'm not 100% confident in, my more difficult dog's behaviour here, I would keep that difficult dog on the lead, and I would let my reliable dog off the lead, so that I would be like, okay, you can chill, I'll keep a concentrate on you. Okay, so the next situation in this kind of like scenario of having two dogs, one reactive, non-reactive, and this is a scenario that I have one dog who can be reactive and one dog who isn't, and there are still situations where I have to manage him quite closely. My one who can be a bit reactive, Elvis, and he's actually the older dog, although he's very good these days, he can definitely have his moments. So I would be thinking about both dogs being able to perform the behaviours that I needed the difficult dog to do. Okay, so I'm going to have to raise my good dog's training to the same standard for the same behaviours, so that when I ask for those behaviours from my tricky dog, my good dog can also do them, and therefore I just need to ask both dogs to do the same thing, and they both do it, and that makes my life a lot easier. So if I need my difficult dog to turn away from a trigger, I need my good dog, who's also on the lead, to also be able to do that on cue, so that I have got both dogs doing the same thing. Because if I'm like, okay, I need to got a difficult situation here with my tricky dog, and I need to bug out, right? As an example, I need to say, let's go. I need both dogs to turn on a dime and follow me, okay? It's no good if I've trained that for my reactive dog and they can do it, and I haven't trained it for my good dog, who I wouldn't have to normally leave that situation with, because then I've got one dog who's flying back to me and one dog who's not. So I need both dogs to do the behaviours that the difficult dog needs. Yeah, does that make sense? So then that way I can take them both out, because I don't really need to concentrate on the social dog in terms of their reactivity. I'm not like looking, going, oh, thinking, I'm just managing my situation and doing my training with my tricky dog, knowing that I've also got the sort of like behaviours installed, if you like, in the good dog, so that when I go turn, both of them are going to do it, right? And then I can take them both out, knowing that if I have to get out of a situation, or if I want my tricky dog to do a certain thing, or I want them to look at me, or I want them to sit, or I want them to down, or whatever it is I want them to do in that particular situation, I'm just going to have both of them there, and I'm just going to go one cue, turn, down, and they're both going to do it. Yeah? So it means you're putting a little bit of extra effort into the training of the good dog that you maybe wouldn't need to do if you if they, because they're not reactive, but it then means you can take them out together and have control over them. Okay, so that's my kind of like two main areas. How can I manage the situation away from triggers to meet them? In which case I'm saying things like, do play with the dog beforehand, put more training into them in and around the house, take some of that energy out of them in shorter training sessions, mentally stimulating ones, so that the walks themselves are easier and more matched. Strategies on the walk being things like, can the good dog be off the lead while the reactive dog is on the lead so that you can concentrate on them? Can you use different types of leads to make your life a little bit easier? Go to different locations so that makes your life easier. And then managing situations on the walk itself, I'm going to basically bring my good dog's training and response to cues up to the same level as my reactive dogs. And then I am trusting then that my good dog is also going to do the thing I need my reactive dog to do in that situation, right? I need my reactive dog to listen to me and to perform XYZ behaviour, and I know that my good dog will follow. I'm saying good dog because they're not good dogs and bad dogs, reactive and non-reactive, so that I'm not kind of in a conflict situation with the two of them. They're both singing off the same song sheet, if that makes sense. And I've practiced that, same as I would do with any training. I've practiced it with both of them, away from the triggers, etc., etc. Right, I hope that gives that follower a little bit of help. And I think it's a situation that everybody is quite common, and a lot of terrier people have this situation because they have two dogs who have quite different outlooks on life, and often, like one reactive and one non-reactive. So that gives you some little hints and tips on potentially how to deal with it. And as always, I'm here. I can help you with one-to-one, and I can help you with the Terrier School, which is coming very, very soon. It's so close to being finished. So keep your ears and eyes peeled for the reactivity course, which will be coming along. It'll be running as both like an online course that you can self-direct. I'll also be running it as group program, so you'll get the digital course, but then we'll go through and we'll have weekly Zooms and we'll have a support group and all that sort of stuff. And then there's going to be a community element to it as well. We can all get together and ask questions, and there'll be monthly Q&As there for all the training courses. So it's exciting. Really looking forward to getting that up and running. And as I say, fire me questions over for this little podcast, and I will do my best to answer them for you. And I'll see you next week, guys.